Alright, so doing something a little different today. I was going through my sketchbook the other night and I saw this one sketch that I had been working on a few years ago that I never got finished. So I thought, well, I'm gonna finish it. So without further ado, let's get going. Even though primarily I draw manga, I've been drawing all my life, so I've tried a lot of different media, including pencil, including one of my favorites is Conte crayons, which is like a very, very hard pastel. And I tried oils and watercolor. Not really that good at watercolor, even though inking is very similar to watercolor. It's a lot different. A lot of times I'll go through a phase of using just pencil and doing some black and gray pencil sketches. When I was in art school, I went through a lot of pencil sketches. So what I use is my standard 2mm lead with a lead holder. I said before about the benefits. I think it's much more ecologically friendly because instead of wasting all that wood, you just use the lead, and you're more in control of it. I personally feel I'm more in control of it. It comes in, you can get the 2mm leads in a variety of densities. Right now I'm using 2B. I always use 2B as my basic pencil. I found that, of course, the harder ones don't give you as wide of a range of shading. And the darker ones sometimes are just too messy. You pick up on it very, very easily on the side of your hand. So I personally just prefer the 2B. I'm gonna try and find a piece of paper real quick. Whenever I'm working with pencil, I like to have kind of a blotter sheet, as it were. Doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it's something that's disposable, so I don't have to worry about smearing. And even though it's all gray, you want to keep things as clean as possible. And like I was talking about yesterday with the manga when I was doing the grass, you want to make sure that you have good readability, good clarity. You want to make sure that when people look at it, they know what they're looking at. And when you're working in pencil, when you're working on anything that's got a lot of dynamics as far as value, then you want to make sure not to just grind in a color. You want to build it up. It's a sensitivity to the surrounding colors, the surrounding values. You want to make sure that everything is balanced so that what stands out is what you want to have stand out. And if you go too heavy, then sometimes you'll see the lines instead of like a smooth gradient, smooth background color. Plus, you want to make sure that the texture, like here you have a certain amount of graininess from going real shallow and going real light. So if on here where I was going darker, if I was to change how I was laying in the pencil, it would change the graininess. So even though I haven't worked on this for a couple of years, when I draw in, when I sketch in this dragon scale, for example, the graininess is going to match. Again, even though I haven't worked on it in a couple of years. So you want to remain consistent. You want to always practice your techniques, so that not only do you develop a particular style, develop your own style, but that even though you're getting better, just having a technique that you know is going to be consistent, a consistent level of quality. This is one of the situations where people looking at it will think, God, that takes a lot of time. Like, don't you get bored? No, for me, it's actually very meditative. I imagine the people who are getting bored are the people who are just watching. Nothing you can do to help that. It's if you want the good results, then you have to work with a certain level of patience. One thing I always recommend to people when they're just starting out drawing is you need to be able to visualize where you're going with your lines and your shading and make sure that you can visualize what it's going to look like when you get done. Sometimes people will they say, hey, I want to, draw this character, and they draw an outline because they want to immediately see what it's going to look like, and they want to define, well, this is the jaw, and this is the eyes, and the hands and feet. And they don't take into account some areas are going to be in light, some areas are going to be shadow. And so being able to visualize it allows you to build up the dark areas. And then that way it's not just a lot of lines. That's definitely a style. If that's going to be your style, then that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, if you want something that looks more kind of fleshed out, if you want something that looks like has more volume and like a wide dynamic as far as color and tone or shading. Then you definitely need to learn to visualize, so that way, as you're working, you don't get too dark in any area, which makes it really, really difficult to recover from. Like, for example, when you're doing like a fine gradient like this, if you go too dark, like if I went too dark on this and I had to recover from it and I had to erase from it, well, that's going to change the texture of that I'm laying down. So when I'm working up here, and I already have this texture that I did several years ago, and I want this texture to match, if I start erasing and filling in and redoing stuff, then that's going to change the quality of the texture. And that's definitely something you don't want if you're trying to maintain a consistency. There we go. Like Bob Ross would say, got some happy little dragon scales. And then one of the problems when people are starting out is they want to make like everything stand out. And you can't make everything stand out because then nothing will stand out. So you need to figure out what are the important elements of the composition, and then build everything around it to make those elements stand out. And that's part of the art of creating something that has an impact. And it can change too. It can change just based on the context. But here, I want the dragon scales to stand out enough that you can see that they're dragon scales, and it adds to the overall impression of a dragon. But I don't want them to be so prominent that it takes away from her face. And then you have the dragon ear here, which in this area you want to light enough that her eyes still stand out. But then you want to be able to see it so that when people look at it, they can easily read, oh, okay, that's a dragon ear. But then the scales recede so that it doesn't distract from this area of the ear. And down here, you want the dragon ear to diminish so that you can see the dorsal fin. And then even if you have other dragon elements behind it, you want that to support being able to see the fin. And even though you want to be able to read the fin, you don't want it taking away from the face. So then what you have here is you have the claws, the talons. You want those to be easily readable because they're now in the foreground directly under her chin. But then you still need a background. So it's just a matter of layering what your focus is and how you want to lead people's eyes around the drawing. And because you're layering, sometimes need to infer things. Like, I want to continue this fin around, and I want to make it up here as though it's one long continuous fin. But I've already established the talons here. So I don't want to swipe across them in order to make the curve, the line of the curve. So I need to project a line through there, through the talons, so that as I'm making this fin come across, curve of the fin. that when people look at it, it's a believable swirl. The other thing that I always watch out for is intersections. I hate when lines intersect in a weird way. A lot of times in nature, lines don't intersect just because, well, a lot of times things don't line up that way. And so it just kind of seems unnatural when you see things, when you see a couple of lines intersecting. I think that it affects the readability of the piece, and I think that it kind of, depending on how severe it is, sometimes makes me think that the artist really isn't very good at composition, which may be wrong. But I mean, if it's something where an artist is creating something and they don't pay attention to the things that make it easily readable, then sometimes I can't. I'm not sure that I'm getting the concept that they are trying to convey. Like if I were to make the swirl intersect with this claw, then that kind of muddies up. Well, is the claw touching the fin, the tail? It's like a little, maybe a little tail kind of thing here. You know, it kind of messes with your, well, either the perspective. You know, this is supposed to be swirling around kind of in the background, but if I swirl it around in the background and the claw, which is obviously in front, is touching it, then it brings it from the background into the foreground, which I don't want to have. So intentionally compositing it to not have an intersection, not only does it give me an opportunity to have a little bit more dynamics in the swirl itself, but it also it allows me to be able to layer it. And when I can layer it, then it actually adds to the illusion of depth. And the more that you can add to the illusion of depth, obviously the more that you can bring the viewer into your idea of what the world looks like. And it allows you to, I think, tell a better story. Right now I'm dealing with the limitations of working in a sketchbook instead of having a free piece of paper. There have been a couple of times when I've started on a sketch in my book and decided, hey, I'm going to keep those out and work on them. Just as, just a regular drawing. I'm almost at that point with this one. But I like the idea of, I started a sketch in the sketchbook. Just keeping it in there as a sketchbook sketch. I don't know if other artists think the same way, but for me it's kind of, it's they're sketchbook sketches and proper drawings, and I always like to kind of play with what I can do with like a sketchbook sketch. Since in my brain I do see them as different things, sometimes I kind of get a kick out of, making something that's, hey, that looks really good. Not bad for just something in my sketchbook. So, yeah. Sometimes I don't really like to unsketchbook a sketch. I think it's kind of cool doing something that's outside the bounds of what is typically expected. Like I've been watching that one streamer Murda. If anybody's ever watched him, he's basically he just goes around to different car meets, and he has a Lexus that he has souped up to drag race with, and it's just a 4-door, premier car that you wouldn't think, hey, let's go down to the drag race, down to the drag strip with us. And he has recently set a world record with it. And it's just something, you look at it and you think, oh yeah, that's just something that some mid-level business, mid-level manager would drive around in, and some kind of yuppie would drive around in that thing. And you know, looks nice and it's got a fair amount of there. And he's over there saying world records. And I think it's kind of the same thing, you know, where I can take a sketchbook and it just kind of started out as a doodle. And let's see, oh yeah, okay, so just kind of started out as a doodle, and you think, oh well, it's just a sketchbook sketch, you know. And you see these artists who Leonardo da Vinci, his Da Vinci sketchbook, and you know, you look at all the little pre-sketches that he did while he was making all the famous sculptures, and all his ideas as far as a helicopter. And you think, well, those are just sketchbook sketches. And then you look at the Sistine Chapel and you say, well, there's obviously this final painting, or you look at Mona Lisa or whatever. And you think, well, those are just the final paintings, but they're not sketches. And so I just love the idea of taking a sketchbook sketch somewhere conceptually it's not, it doesn't need to go, instead of taking this and turning it into a serious work of art. I can make a serious work of art out of a sketch. And if you look closely, I'm not going to erase because of what I was saying earlier about erasing and how it kind of messes up the mojo of a drawing sometimes. I have some of my original lines here that as I'm going over I can see that I'm not going to do anything about. Alright, so how's that looking so far? Luckily my cats are not bothering me so much today. I just fed them, so they're not as fat and lazy as most cats like to be during the day. It's Saturday. So what are you going to do on a Saturday? Well, I'm going to eat a whole bunch of food and just sleep it off. Sounds like a good Saturday to me. It's a Saturday. And sometimes when you're working on a sketch, even if you have all the elements laid out, it's good to you know, kind of leave yourself open to new ideas that develop with this area here. Hadn't really decided how to resolve it. And then I realized one of the aspects of dragons are the 4 elements. So this girl gets some clouds. And that allows me to fade out this area and not have to come up with something important or distinctive. Just adds a little bit of texture, adds a little bit of environmental flavor to it. In my last set of bunch of streams, I was using my black vinyl eraser. But when you're working with shading and you're working with really delicate areas or very fine areas, the regular kneaded eraser, it's a little gummy eraser, it works the best. You go a little bit too dark, and just by tapping it, it picks up some ink. So you don't have to rub it, you don't have to smear it. Looks pretty good so far. Alright, so I think that's all I'm going to do today. Another short stream. But I think I got some good stuff done. I filled in around here. Even this up a little bit. As I step back, I can see some areas that need a little bit more evening out. All right, looks good. Okay, so it's 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, so I'm going to be wrapping it up for right now. And I hope that anyone watching this has enjoyed it. If you like what you see, follow. If you are watching this on YouTube, come to Twitch and follow, or follow me on YouTube. Basically, whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, make sure to follow me on YouTube and Twitch. And also on the social medias, Instagram and Twitter are both Pink Eraser Draws. So come and follow me there and say hi and comment on what you like. And yeah, come back for more. Keep watching. Keep coming back. I'll probably start making some highlights. I've done it for a couple of streams. I think I'm going to start making some more clips, more highlights, and I may continue on with this one tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. I've decided my days off are going to be, days off from streaming are going to be Monday and Tuesday. And so I will be here tomorrow. I might do an extra long stream tomorrow, or 2 streams. I might actually come back tonight and continue to work on this. So follow me on Twitter at Pink Eraser Draws, or Instagram, Pink Eraser Draws. But on Twitter, I will be updating whether or not I'm going to be doing a night stream tonight, later tonight. But yeah, if you like what you see, click the follow button. Follow me here on Twitch, and you'll get notifications. Select the button to be notified. You get notifications, but also if you follow me on Twitter, then I always tweet out ahead of time when it's going to be a few minutes before go time. So if you like what you see, come back for more. And you can also check YouTube to see a full version of this, or just watch it here on Twitch. So see you tomorrow. I'm going to raid somebody. So just hold on a second while I go to raid. Okay, getting ready to sign off. Getting ready for the raid. So, have a good day.